All right, I will call this meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee to order. Will the Secretary please take the roll?
Senator Flores.
Present.
Senator Orenshaw. Senator Lang. Senator Wynn. Senator Hansen. Senator Krasner. Senator Ellison. Chair Scheibel.
And I am here. Please mark Senators Lang and Wynn present when they arrive. If either of them don't make it to our committee meeting today, mark them absent excused. As it is that time of year, everybody is trying to be in at least two places, if not more, at once as we present bills on the other side and take care of other legislative business. So with that, I will go ahead and, can mark Senator Wynn present. I will go ahead and open up the bill hearing. I'm planning to take them in order. Okay, so I'll open up the bill hearing on AB 89.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I am Cecilia Gonzalez, representing Assembly District 16 in Clark County, and today I'm here as a member of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Judiciary for the 2023-2024 interim to present Assembly Bill 89, which aims to regulate the use of unclosed searches in the juvenile justice system by establishing procedural safeguards and limiting their use in certain circumstances. Chair, with your permission, I'm also here joined by Paloma Guerrero. She is with the Public Defender's Office, as are other presenters currently out of town. So she'll be here to answer questions and give a few remarks as well. At the April 26, 2024 meeting, the committee received a recommendation from Jennifer Frazier, the Chief Deputy Public Defender, Juvenile Division for the Clark County Public Defender's Office, to address existing practices related to juvenile detention and treatment. These discussions revealed the need for greater oversight and standardization of procedures involving unclosed searches to ensure the safety, dignity, and well-being of children in our care. This is particularly important to implement in the juvenile justice system, as unclosed searches can be a significant trigger for victims of sexual abuse, and statistics show how many youth involved in the system are victims prior to abuse. Assembly Bill 89 directly addresses these concerns by promoting clear and consistent policies regardless of when and how unclosed searches may be conducted in regional facilities for the treatment and rehabilitation of children. I'm going to walk through the bill summary and then I'm going to hand it over to my guest presenter. The bill amends provisions concerning local, regional, and state facilities for the detention or confinement of children to ensure comprehensive coverage across all relevant juvenile justice settings. The bill in its first reprint requires each facility to adopt and implement policies and procedures consistent with any other applicable laws or regulations that explicitly prohibits unclosed searches except under certain circumstances. Any unclosed searches that do occur under these limited circumstances must be conducted only if employees reasonably suspect that the child has or can access a weapon or contraband and have exhausted all less intrusive methods, and at least two employees, preferably of the same gender as the child, must be present during the search. The employee with the primary responsibilities for the unclosed search must submit a detailed written report to the administrator or director of the facility within 72 hours, ensuring transparency and accountability. And lastly, these reports must include the description of the search and any other information requested by the administrator or director, allowing for a thorough review and oversight. Chair, that concludes my comments. I will now hand it over to my guest presenter. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the Senate Judiciary, Paloma Guerrero, P-A-L-O-M-A-G-U-E-R-R-E-R-O, on behalf of the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I'm standing in for Jennifer Frazier, who is the team chief of our juvenile division, but unfortunately could not make it here today. I just have 3 quick points to make. The first is that the American Bar Association came out with a proclamation several years ago encouraging all state and local municipalities and governments in working on these types of bans. Secondly, that our facilities here in the state, most, if not all, already have policies in place, but this bill ensures that there's consistency among all the facilities for all our children throughout the state of Nevada, and also limits when and how these searches are undertaken. Lastly, from the last presentation in the other house, we did make some changes based on juvenile justice stakeholders' concerns. The most important of which, and I think that's where we got some of the opposition, is there was language about extraordinary circumstances and that not being defined. That's been completely eliminated, and we have this new, better definition that we adopted from Clark County and their policies about reasonable suspicion. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation, and we are ready for questions.
Excellent. Before I turn it over to the committee, oh, never mind. I will go ahead and turn it over to the committee. Members, are there any questions? I'll start with Senator Ellison.
I'm not used to you coming up in opposition. So here's the question I do have. And I was looking through the bill, and I was trying to look back on, the committee that it was on before. But under the search, if it's a female, it's got to be 2 female people to do the search. It doesn't say that.
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much for the question, Chair, through you to Senator Ellison.
Oh, please go direct.
Thank you. So we would prefer that it be the same gender as the child that is being searched. However, due to staffing issues, we didn't want to necessarily put that in statute. And so the policy that is consistent with Clark County is that if the same gender of the child is there, for that to take place, but if not, that the additional person should also provide oversight for that search as well.
And I think Senator Hansen had a question. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Obviously, my concern is the safety of the people conducting the search. First of all, what is the definition of child under this? Up to 18, or I know in some cases we use 21 or 20 can be a child. Is this limited to the age of 18?
Paloma Guerrero, for the record. That is a great question, and I really.
Well, I asked it, so I would assume so.
Yes. I know that this has to do with juveniles, so I know that's under 18, but I think, I know there's some facilities that may house them
Okay,
for
well,
over
anyway,
18, but I can definitely ask Ms. Jennifer Frazier.
Well, that's fine. Let's assume it's 18, because, when you think child, I'm picturing, an 11-year-old or something. Some of these people that are going to be being checked for weapons and so forth are 17 and a half, male, big, strong fellows, I would assume, who committed some serious act. And so for the personnel that would be doing the searches, the way this was worded, it sounds like, well, they have to almost second guess themselves. In my mind, I would want them to do whatever is necessary right from the get-go, including a full search if there's weapons hidden in body cavities or what the heck they do. I don't know. But that's the first concern I have with the bill, is this personal safety of the actual officers involved in conducting the search. What I don't know, and maybe you can enlighten me a little bit on this, what's the current procedure? I mean, obviously if I have a 16-year-old girl who's been accused of a crime, and she's brought into a detention facility or sheriff's office or whatever, when they do the initial search, do they always have a female officer or ward or employee of the court do this type of strip search, basically? And when they do that, I would assume even for their own protection, they would have some sort of backup or somebody, making sure that nobody can be accusing them of some sort of sexual misconduct or something like that. So what's the current procedure that this is going to modify or change?
Paloma Guerrero, for the record. We agree with you. I think it's always a balancing test and balancing the rights of the child between the safety of not only the facility but the employees that are working there. And of course, every child is still innocent until proven guilty. They have Fourth Amendment rights, and just because they're incarcerated or accused of a crime, they don't lose any of that. So it's always what's the right balance there. And then these policies also protect the workers as well, because when you have these professional protections and policies work both ways, right? Not only does it protect those liberty interests of the child, but also against liability for any of the employees. When you have 2 people that are present, it's harder for somebody to make any sort of false accusations. As far as the current procedures, I know for Clark County, they're very similar. I can't speak to any other facility. I know that there may be some facilities in the room, then that maybe they can speak to what their policies are. But the policies that we put here aren't really limiting anything or changing much of what the current standard is, what they're doing in the facilities now. But it's just kind of creating a more standardization of it.
Okay, well, this does say this is after the child they're being committed to a juvenile facility. So Fourth Amendment probably is a little bit behind the eight ball here, because they've already been either convicted or brought through some preliminary process, and then they're doing the final search before they go into the facility. And, at that point, I would assume that the standard procedure would be some sort of strip search to make absolutely certain they're not bringing contraband in, hidden in an orifice or a weapon or something like that. So I don't know, I guess we'll wait till somebody from the court systems testify what the current procedure is. But obviously, we don't want anybody being humiliated by being forced to some sort of degrading search. You're a young lady, committed a crime potentially, and having a couple of males in there, demanding you strip off all your clothes or something. My gut tells me, though, that probably already is something that is very carefully regulated by whether it's the sheriff's office or the juvenile detention facility or whatever. So anyway, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to ask those questions.
Of course. Other questions from members of the committee? All right, I'm not seeing any further questions, so thank you so much for your presentation. At this time, we will move into testimony on AB 89. We will start with testimony in person in either Carson City or Las Vegas in support of AB 89. I don't see anybody coming forward in Las Vegas, so we'll start here in Carson City with support testimony on AB 89. Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Kylie Cryer, K-I-L-E-Y-C-R-Y-E-R, and I am an intern at the Washoe County Public Defender's Office here in support for AB 89. We kind of want to reiterate that it's important to set clear guidelines for when unclothed searches of juveniles can be performed. Without guidelines, decisions can be arbitrary or influenced by bias, and it's important that we're protecting our juveniles and our staff in the facilities and that they are both looked out for. And policies provide consistent standards when these searches can occur and how they must be reported. In short, we support AB 89 and we encourage you guys to as well. Thank you. All right, I don't see anybody else coming forward to give in-person support testimony on AB 89, so we'll go to the phones for support testimony on AB 89.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 89, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to provide support testimony at this time.
All right, then we will move to testimony in opposition to AB 89. Anybody wishing to testify in person in opposition to AB 89 is invited to do so now, but I don't see anybody coming forward in either physical location, so we'll go to the phones for opposition testimony to AB 89.
If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 89, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to make opposition testimony at this time.
Okay, then we'll move to neutral. Anybody wishing to testify in neutral on AB 89, please come forward now in Carson City and Las Vegas. We will start here in Carson City. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Marla McDade Williams. I serve as the administrator for the Division of Child and Family Services. We administer 3 juvenile detention facilities in the state of Nevada, and if this bill goes through, we will be changing our policy because we currently do unclothed searches upon admittance to our facilities. We assess for potential injury of the youth that come to us, as well as any fresh tattoos, and we assess tattoos to help us identify where we can most appropriately place a youth inside our facility. So not in opposition to the bill, just letting you know of the implication to us as this bill moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you mind answering a question from the committee? Okay, go ahead, Vice Chair Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming up. I was just curious, and you may not have this now. If you maybe you could come back via email. Do we have any type of reporting mechanism now on contraband making it into some of these facilities? I'm just trying to get an idea of how big of a problem it is and how often we're finding individuals, even with the policies you have in place now, are bringing different things that they're not supposed to.
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, I can look to see primarily on an admittance to us, contraband is not an issue. It's if upon a visit, right, where you would want to potentially reassess someone, did they come in contact with someone, was something possibly moved through. Unlike some of the county facilities, we don't have a machine to do an inspection that way of any contraband. So ours right now are primarily, two-person observation of the same gender of the individual. But it would be, if somebody went outside of the facility, we would want to assure coming back in that they went out the same way that they came in.
All right, thank you.
All right. It looks like we have another question, if you don't mind, Senator Krasner.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. You said that you do full strip search on children upon admission. Do they to look for fresh tattoos? Is it common for children to have tattoos on their chest and genitals?
For the record, Marla McDade Williams, like anybody, tattoos can be anywhere, and they are not completely unclothed. They have underwear on, and it is not a touch search. It is a visual search of their body to see what tattoos they're carrying. They could have them anywhere.
All right. Thank you so much for your testimony. I don't think we have further questions. I don't see anybody else coming forward to testify in neutral. I will just suggest that I think the committee would also like to hear from other agencies that oversee these juvenile detention facilities. For example, Metro or Clark County, if they wanted to come forward and tell us a little bit about their policies, that would be much appreciated in this moment. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Joshua Martinez. I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Just for the record, we don't oversee the juvenile detention side of things. The only time that we would have contact with a juvenile is if they're originally charged for a felony crime and then they're certified as an adult. Once they're certified as an adult, and if they are under the age of 18, then they would be moved over to the Clark County Detention Center, and we keep them separate from the population, and we would follow our policies in regards to, examining somebody when they come into the institution to make sure we keep weapons, drugs, or any other contraband out of the facility.
I'm going to just ask legal, please, to clarify. I think this bill would apply to all juveniles regardless of where they're housed. Or would it only be juveniles who are in the juvenile detention center?
Chair, it's only juveniles in the juvenile detention center.
Okay, thank you for clarifying my misunderstanding. And it looks like let's hear from Mr. Rogan first. Let's hear from Mr. Rogan first, and then see if he answers your question. If you're reading Senator Hansen's mind today, by chance. I know it's a scary place, but please.
Good afternoon.
Just go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. Jeff Rogan, JEFFROGA, on behalf of the Clark County. I can answer as many questions as I can based upon what I know, but I am not as familiar with the juvenile system as I am with the adult criminal system. So I will do my best. I have our policy here in front of me.
I'll take it back over to Senator Hansen for his actual question.
Okay, well, actually, legal gave me the answer on my first question. That was up to 20 years of age as a child in the juvenile system. So have to be under 21. So, when we say child, that kind of gives a different impression than a potentially 20-year-old person. The other question, actually, for both of you, when you guys pick somebody up that's 17 and you pick him up through Metro and you find out he's 17, you've already done a certain amount of, committed a crime. You haul them down to wherever. Don't you guys do a search as soon as they're entered into the jail anyway of everything, basically every possible location for contraband or weapons?
Josh Martinez again for the record, through the chair to Senator Hansen.
You can go direct.
All right. Senator Hansen, yes, you are correct. So if we encounter a juvenile and we make an arrest of that juvenile and they're going to be transported to the Clark County Juvenile Detention Facility, then before we even put them into a patrol car per our policy, we're going to do a thorough pat down of them and we're going to do a search incident to arrest. That's just simply searching their pockets, backpack, things or items that are on them. We are not taking their clothing off and doing a strip search like this bill talks about out in the field. And then once we get them into the juvenile facility, we turn them over to the juvenile facility staff, and then they conduct whatever their policies are in regards to secondary search of them since they're going to be housing them.
Okay, well, Mr. Rogan, are you here on behalf of them? I want to know so they've been picked up. They haven't been given a strip search, it sounds like. Right. But when they're turned over to you and they've been, you're a 19-year-old male for whatever reason gets turned over to juvenile services, when do you guys actually conduct a full strip search, body cavity search? And is that standard procedure now?
Well, first of all, again, Jeff Rogan on behalf of Clark County, again, with the caveat that I'm not as familiar and I'm reviewing our policy. A comprehensive search or a strip search is not necessarily a body cavity search. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's defined strictly in our policies. And when a person is admitted, they can only conduct these types of searches based upon reasonable suspicion as articulated by certain factors. So sometimes it's just based upon the belief that the person might have contraband or a weapon. There's other factors such as the type of offense that they're admitted on, whether it's a battery domestic violence offense or another type of violent offense, any kind of suspicious behavior that the child is engaging in, criminal history, behavioral history, whether when they went through the metal detector went off, and that's the kind of factors that would be taken in by staff to determine whether they need to conduct either what we call a partial search or a comprehensive search.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I may be mixing things up. When do you do essentially what this is going to say? You've got to follow different procedures. Right now, when do you do basically a nudity search, I guess you call it?
Yeah, that's exactly when they're admitted to the facility, and there's those factors that I just discussed briefly. If those indicate that there's a need to do that type of search, they will do it. And again, just as the Assemblywoman stated, and as Ms. Guerrero stated, the bill kind of mirrors what we do now in Clark County, and that was the intent when we were working through with the Assemblywoman that the bill match our existing policy.
Okay, well, that's kind of what the next question was. What are you doing? No. Previous testimony suggested that you will have to change your policies going forward if this bill passes, but you're saying that the bill pretty much mirrors your policy already. What's going to change?
So again, Jeff Rogan on behalf of Clark County. That was the state that was testifying. They have different policies. Clark County, our policy that we have here is the policy that I think the Assemblywoman wanted to implement statewide. So there will be no changes, to my knowledge, in Clark County's policies.
For you guys, but other sections of the state, it may. All right, I got it. I don't know. I wish somebody was here from NACO or somebody to represent, or somebody from the Sheriffs and Chiefs Association, somebody from, most counties have a juvenile detention facility. And I'm kind of wondering, how will this impact the rural counties I represent? Washoe County, nobody's here from Washoe to explain it, so a little disappointed in the failure of the juvenile people to show up here and explain some of this so I can make an educated vote. But in the meantime, I think we're at least getting to where these type of things currently are done. So I appreciate your help.
Thank you, Senator. Again, Jeff Rogan on behalf of Clark County. I'd be happy to set up a meeting with our head of juvenile justice.
Well, they should be here now to testify, but whatever. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. And unless there are other questions, I do appreciate you both taking the hot seat and answering those questions. I think that did help clarify some things for me, that this bill is modeled off of the Clark County policy, and we're asking the other jurisdictions to mirror the Clark County policy to reduce unnecessary strip searches of minors. And certainly I would encourage members of the committee to follow up offline to make sure that we are all understanding the bill the same way. That being the case, I think we still need to go back to neutral on the phones. AVH, is there anybody wishing to give neutral testimony on AB 89 on the phone?
Thank you. If you would like to provide neutral testimony for AB 89, please press star 9 or raise hand in the Zoom client to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, then that brings us to the conclusion of testimony. I will invite the presenters back up to give any closing remarks. And please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Chair. Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16, again for the record. I do apologize, Senator, for the confusion. And I did state it in my opening remarks that we wanted really just a conformity throughout the state in regards to how we are doing unclosed searches with juveniles. And we did work with the counties. I apologize that they are not here today. And we will definitely follow up with you offline for any other comments or concerns that you or the committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you being here to present to us. With that, I will now close the hearing on AB 89. I will open the hearing on AB 217. Assemblymember Gonzalez is already here with us. I believe you have some co-presenters down in Las Vegas as well. I see someone coming to the table. I will turn it over to you to introduce us to whoever we need to be introduced to and walk us through your presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair. Just give me 1 second if that is okay. Thank you so much, Chair and members of the committee. I do have a co-presenter down in Las Vegas. Her name is Demi with Make the Road. And so with your permission, I will give my remarks and then I will kick it off to Demi and then we will take questions. So thank you, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. Again, for the record, my name is Assemblymember Gonzalez and I represent Assembly District 16. And I'm here to present for you all today Assembly Bill 217, as well as my co-presenter Demi that I already mentioned. Across the nation, students, families, and educators are stressed and fearful of federal immigration officials coming into schools. This fear causes stress and reluctancy to attend schools, preventing students from accessing and receiving a free public education and any critical social services they or their families may need. One cannot put into words the trauma and anxiety this is causing and the impact that this is having on our students' mental health, academic performance, and overall well-being. In summary, AB 217 prohibits school districts and public school personnel from allowing the United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers or any other federal official investigating or enforcing immigration laws to access district facilities or school grounds and disclosing a student's educational record, family, or household information, or any other information about that student without a signed lawful order or warrant issued by the appropriate jurisdiction. This bill also defines public school to include charter schools and university schools for the profoundly gifted. Any individual who knowingly and willfully violates this provision is subject to disciplinary action by their school district or public school that employs them, and for each subsequent violation is guilty of a misdemeanor. With that, I will now turn it over to Demi, who is in Las Vegas. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and committee members. For the record, my name is Demi Lira. That's DEMILIRA, and I'm an intern with Make the Road, Nevada. I want to thank Assemblymember Gonzalez for allowing me to co-present with her and all her work on this bill. As a college student who grew up attending Nevada's public schools, I know firsthand how important it is for students to feel safe at school. I've also seen how fear, especially among families in my community and students from mixed status families, can seriously disrupt a student's ability to learn. Lately, that fear has been growing. Just last month in Los Angeles, immigration officials tried to enter 2 elementary schools to question 5 young students, some as young as first grade. The agents had claimed they were checking on the students' well-being as unaccompanied minors and said they had permission from the students' caretakers. But when the school district followed up, they found that no such authorization had ever been granted. This troubling incident highlights exactly why AB 217 is so important. When government agents show up unannounced at schools, it undermines the very foundation of what a school should be, a safe, stable, and supportive place for children to learn and grow. That foundation is critical here in Nevada too, especially as we work to tackle chronic absenteeism in our public schools. Last school year, we made real progress, cutting statewide rates by about 9 percentage points, but there's still room to grow. 13 counties still have absentee rates above the state average of 25%, and one thing we can't ignore is that fear, especially fear of immigration enforcement, is keeping some students away from school entirely. Students should never have to choose between their safety and their education. When they're constantly on edge, worried about who might show up on campus, whether or not they're safe, or if there is a target on their back, it takes a toll on their mental health and their overall academic success. This bill is about giving every student the chance to show up, feel safe, and succeed, no matter their circumstance or background. No student should ever have to choose between feeling safe and getting an education. Thank you.
Thank you, and with that, we are ready for questions.
All right, members of the committee, any questions? Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. While everybody's very sympathetic to the whole concept of this, I haven't heard of a single case of this being done. Can you guys give me even a single case of ICE raiding any public school or any school for that matter in Nevada?
Thank you so much. Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. We have not. So currently this is the policy for Washoe and Clark County school districts. This is where we got this policy. And what we are attempting to do, or what the intent is, to make sure that every school and every child, regardless of where they go in Nevada, has the same protection, if you will. This is currently what is the federal standard. We have not seen this happen in Nevada, and the hope and the goal and the intent is to prevent that from happening, right? I think we've seen plenty of examples across the country. We've just named one earlier that happened in Los Angeles. I can think of earlier this year of the school in Chicago where teachers did not let immigration in. I've heard from countless constituents, peers, I'm also an educator, about how scared us as educators are and what are we going to do in that moment. And so this is really a response to some of the concerns that have been happening over the last couple months at the federal level.
I got it, and I understand the political ramifications of what the bill is trying to do as well. But the thing is, this fanning of the flames that are making kids terrified in Nevada schools, and you just mentioned Washoe and Clark already have this policy in place. I represent several of those other counties, the other 15 counties. I would bet they have very, very similar policies in place already. If not, I'd be shocked. So if we're going to be concerned about the fear factor for these kids, it seems like we're fanning a flame for a flame that doesn't exist. I mean, there's zero evidence that any kid's ever had an ICE agent show up even at any public school in Nevada, or as far as I know elsewhere. And if they did, they're already breaking Nevada law.
Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record, thank you so much. I think that's incorrect. We actually have heard of FBI agents and other federal organizations that have been going to unaccompanied minors, just like you heard about what happened in LA. We have gotten reports of that happening here, showing up to foster parents' homes, asking permission to check on the child when there's really no reason. They don't do welfare checks. It's not in their purview to be doing that. However, they are saying that they are doing that to obtain access to the unaccompanied minor and or undocumented person and or family. So we do know, Senator, that that is happening in our communities. We do know that our children are afraid. This is not... We are just making things up about children being afraid. I'm an educator. Assemblymember Torres Fawcett is an educator. Senator Cruz Crawford is an educator. These are conversations that we've been been having with our families. Students are afraid. I know several families that will be self-deporting from UNR after this semester. I know families that are not coming to school. I know families and parents that have contacted us saying, we're afraid to go to the bus stop because we are afraid of being targeted. So I don't think that maybe in your counties you maybe have not have heard of it, or maybe in the areas that you represent have not heard of it, but families are scared. This is not something that we are just getting out of thin air. People are scared that this is going to be happening, and we know it is happening across the country, and we're really trying to get ahead of that. And if other school districts that I have not heard of have a similar policy, I would be excited and happy about that, and happy that, you know, just because a student goes to school in Clark or Washoe County doesn't mean that they don't get the same protection if they are in, let's say, Douglas County or Nye County, right? And so I would be excited to see the folks come to support this bill if they do have that measure in place.
Okay, well, I got that, and I appreciate that, but I would also point out the bill doesn't deal with FBI stops at bus stops or going to bus stops or foster care. This is specifically targeting public schools, and consequently, we're making a problem into worrying people where it's not going to happen anyway. It's already against the law. Now, is there any law that prevents the FBI from going to a bus stop or just deal with bus stops or anywhere outside of public schools?
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much for the question. I am not aware of any laws that stipulate what the FBI can and cannot do. You know, I'm just restating that this is a fear that is currently happening and that we've seen across the country. And again, the intent is to prevent that from happening. And so if we, as lawmakers, can come to the table and say, hey, we've heard your concerns and this is how we're going to address it, you know, that's one of the best things that I can take back to my constituents, right? These are my peers. Again, these are my colleagues, my teachers, my principals that are coming, having this conversation of we are scared, what do we do, right? Again, I publicly know that Washoe and Clark County school districts have this policy, but I don't know of any other county or school throughout Nevada that have this policy. And so this is really trying to get ahead of what is potentially coming down the pipeline, as we've seen in other districts and states.
Okay, I got it again, but again, I would just point out, we have very large Hispanic populations in most of the rural counties as well, and I would bet there already are policies in place. The message we should be sending is that public schools are in fact a safe zone, where at least in Washoe and Clark County, we already have laws like this on the books, and I'd be willing to bet if you look in Elko or Humboldt or Lander or any other counties, they also have very similar policies. So the message we should be sending to these kids that apparently are terrified is that you don't have to be terrified one bit in your public school. Zero. You may be terrified at the bus stop. You may be terrified if foster care shows up and your parents may be illegally in the country, but otherwise, kids in public schools should feel as safe as you and I do right now in this room.
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. I just wanted to clarify, so are you saying that schools should be safe zones, Senator?
I am, and I agree with the policy, and I would bet that's already the case, as you pointed out already in Clark and Washoe, which is probably, plus 90% of all the kids in the public schools anyway. But I would be willing to bet those policies are also in place currently in the rural counties as well. And if they're not, then we could probably look into asking them to do that, although I'm a little uncomfortable forcing policies on the state level on county schools. That's what they have local school boards for. But regardless, I do think that you already have in place in the major counties this exact policy, and by constantly fanning this issue, you're making kids scared that shouldn't be scared at all. In fact, they should feel safest anywhere in the entire state in a public school setting.
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much. I think I agree with you in saying that we should have this standardized practice. That is the intent of the bill. I also worked with counties on this bill, so we have come, through the first reprint and through amendments, we have worked together to really address. I've spoken to the NASB, which is an organization that represents all of the school districts, right? And so we've worked together to make sure that all school districts have this, because it is my understanding that they do not. And I just want to clarify and correct the record. Students are afraid. Teachers are afraid. Families are afraid. People are afraid to leave their homes. That is not anecdotal. That is real. And it may, again, not be constituents that you run into every single day. These are real people that I talk to, that my colleagues talk to, that we represent, that you and I represent, whether they are out there saying that they are afraid. Maybe they're not, because they are exactly afraid to come out, right? People are being pushed in the shadows. We know that absenteeism has increased since this executive order and since what's happening at the federal level. So I just want to clear and correct the record. We do know people are afraid, and we're not continuing to further that fear. In fact, we're trying to let them know that they are safe at school, right? That's the intent and the purpose of this bill. So I just want to clarify that, people are afraid, and it is a very dangerous time to be an undocumented person in America right now. That is a fact.
I got it, and I'm sympathetic to that as well. But again, what you just said, undocumented is another word for illegal. If there's law enforcement people sitting in this audience who scare the hell out of me when I'm speeding down the road. So I wouldn't be at all nervous if I was in compliance with the law. So I think we did have an election. The election was very resounding on this issue. And at some point, we have to get our borders under control. And I think, there's over 4 million people currently on the legal list trying to get into the country. So I have much more sympathy for the people that have gone through that process, came into the country legally, than the people who have beaten that process by sneaking across the border, who now are afraid of having possibly, because they're undocumented illegal in the country, being removed and allowing those positions to be filled by people who are on that waiting list trying to do it legally. So we have a slight difference of opinion on that perhaps, but I want to make very clear that for the kids that are in the public schools in Nevada right now, even if their parents are undocumented people, they're in a completely safe zone. There's not going to be ICE agents showing up at Dilworth Middle School or Sparks High School where I went and rounding kids up out of the classrooms. It's just not going to happen. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. I think we do have some additional questions or comments. Senator Nguyen, did you have one? Please go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. I know Senator Hansen kept mentioning that this is already against the law. People are breaking the law if they do that. And I just want to make a distinction. This isn't the law. This is a policy that these school districts have. Is that correct? So no one's breaking a law. They would only be breaking the law if your bill passes. Is that correct?
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Yes, thank you so much for that point and clarifying. That is correct. It is currently a policy, and we also know that policies change. Things change. We just got a new superintendent in Clark County, which I would say that she's very supportive of this. However, things change, meaning that policies can change, and that's also the intent of why we decided to bring this bill.
And then I guess my other question is, and this is kind of similar to the previous bill that you brought as well, I don't know, more of a comment too. I've always seen like our local governments and our local entities creating policies on like a smaller level. And when they work out well and we know that they're vetted and we know that they're good policies, that those are the kind of policies that I like to see brought in bills that we want to take statewide. So was that kind of your thinking? These are the good policies that are happening in Washoe County School District and the Clark County School District. And if it's good for the majority of those kids in those urban areas, that this is something that we should require and have in law across the state?
Yes, Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Correct, Senator. Like I stated earlier, it's not fair that students that go into the 15 other counties don't have this policy or protection to my knowledge. And so that is kind of the intent of making sure that every student, regardless of what county, local zip code that they are in, that they are protected by this policy. And that they know, right, that school is safe for them to go.
Thank you, and I want to thank you for bringing this bill. I can tell you that around January I started receiving multiple telephone calls from principals in the school districts around my school district, including Wasden Elementary School and elementary schools, which was like the most concerning. Is I had elementary school teachers that were super concerned about what they would tell their kids, what they should tell families. Kids were not wanting to come to school because of this, and I think luckily in Clark County, we were able to say, and we were able to work with the school district to say, hey, look, we have a policy in place. This is how you should respond, teachers in Clark County. But I can only imagine some of the confusion that arises. And if you have a consistent policy across the state, I think that would give clarity to our teachers and principals on how to deal with this ever-changing dynamic that we're going through right now. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Other questions from members of the committee? All right, I don't see any other questions, so we thank you for your presentation. We'll move now into testimony. I'll start with testimony in person in both Carson City and Las Vegas on AB 217. Please come on forward if you would like to testify in support in person. And we will start in Carson City.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nathaniel Waugh, Clark County School District. I always love when I can hear folks say Clark County is doing something good, so thank you for that, Senator Nguyen. We're just here to speak in support. This aligns with current practice in Clark County. It allows us to correct staff behavior should something occur before it escalates. So we're thankful that it allows us to deal with this as a policy issue at the beginning, but that and then it escalates from there, but that it aligns with current policy and practice in Clark County. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Kayla Maese, Kaylahmaese, Civil Rights Analyst with the ACLU of Nevada. We do support, but Chair Scheibel, I actually did have the answer to Senator Hansen's question as to why we've never seen this. Would it be okay if I answered that?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Thank you. So Senator Hansen, so you asked a great question. We have never seen this before. We haven't seen ICE going into schools at this point. So on January 21st of this year, 2025, the Acting Department of Homeland Security, Benjamin Huffman, issued a directive that rescinded the Biden's administration protecting schools and places of worship as places where churches or where ICE immigration enforcement people cannot go in. So from January 21st to today, there has been no protections in place to protect schools and places of worship. So what this bill is doing, Assemblymember Gonzalez is trying to bring the protection back that we did have in place prior to this current administration. So the ACLU of Nevada does support this bill, and we are really happy to see laws that will put these protections back in place in our state. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Tom Clark. I am here on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards, NASB, as you heard referenced by the sponsor. We do appreciate the sponsor working with us on this particular piece of legislation. And just as a clarification, we do know that school districts have policies around when law enforcement comes to a school. That is, if you come up to the second grade teacher's classroom, the second grade teacher should say, go to the front, show your warrant before you can enter the school. That's the policy. But this basically puts into law what that should look like across the state. And then the clarification that we had that the sponsor worked with us on is in section 2 sub 3, or section 1 sub 3. And that is if that teacher in that second grade classroom knows they're coming and lets them in and gets that child and they go away without going through that protocol, the first time that happens, it's probably a mistake. And so the district will discipline that teacher for doing so based on the policies of that school. If they do it again, they're guilty of a misdemeanor, and we were okay with that across the board. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do you mind answering a question?
Tom Clark, for the record, is it from Senator Hansen?
It is.
Absolutely.
A surprise.
Then.
Tom, you don't have a choice, and you know it. So there, you're there representing somebody. Now, okay, well, the question came up of the other 15 school boards. You represent all the school boards in the state? And if yes, are you aware of any county that does not already have a policy? And if it's a policy from the school board, is that not the equivalent of a law? Is it not part of the NAC?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To you and through you to Senator Hansen. Tom Clark.
Please go direct.
Thank you.
Weird practice. Go direct. They always say. Have you ever heard it the entire time? You ever heard them say, go through me? Never. Anyway, go ahead, Tom.
Tom Clark, for the record. Senator Hansen, thank you for the question. The specific policies were hard to nail down, to be honest with you. In some of our more rural schools, it really was just this is the way we do things kind of a policy. And that was passed down from the State Board of Education. There wasn't a place that you could actually say in the manual that the teacher gets, this is the policy if somebody shows up on the school district at your school without a warrant or with a warrant, this is that policy. I will tell you in the conversations that we've had, there will be a policy so that they are very clear if this does occur, what that teacher, that janitor, that teacher's aide, whoever it happens to be, that staff of that school knows that the first thing they do is you don't show me the warrant, go to the front, talk to the principal, and then the principal will typically bring in their attorneys, their local law enforcement, school police if they're necessary, that kind of thing. All of that's addressed at the front end of the school, and then the ICE agent or FBI or whoever can take the action that's included in that warrant. So whether the policy is specific with each district, I can assure you that following this legislative session, they'll be looking at a lot of their policies, and this will be one of them. Thank you.
Okay, well, you did say, though, that the first time's a warning, the second's a misdemeanor. Last time I checked, to get a misdemeanor, you had to break a law.
Tom Clark, for the record, in this scenario, if the second time you do it, you're doing it with intent, and you would be breaking the law, you'd be guilty of a misdemeanor.
Very good. So there is a law in place. Perfect. Thank you.
Just to clarify, I think that was if this were to pass, then there would be a law in place allowing for a misdemeanor conviction of somebody who a second time knowingly and willfully violates the provisions of this bill. I'll kick it over to legal to answer that question. I think that's the more appropriate.
For the record, Tom Clark, that is our understanding, is that there is no law that does this. Now, if this bill passes, the first one is the school district takes the disciplinary action. If they do it again, they're definitely showing some level of willful intent that they would be guilty of a misdemeanor, if this passes.
And just to further clarify, sorry, but in both cases, the first instance and any subsequent instances, which hopefully there would never be, both require the action to be knowingly and willfully violative of the provisions.
I got it. I was confused. But you have policies in place now in Clark County. What I'd love to do is get the Clark County people to explain what, if a teacher violates that policy, what the penalties are, if any. Do you have any idea on that?
This is Tom Clark for the record. I do not have that level of detail on each of the policies.
Normally, a policy is a law if it was passed by the school board. It may not have criminal intent, but it definitely could be a civil infraction of some sort. So anyway, don't want to belabor the point. I stand corrected on, I thought you were talking about an existing law, not this if passes. Appreciate it.
And I did skip over you, Mr. Wilkinson. I don't know if there was anything else that we needed to clarify.
No, Chair, I just gave you the thumbs up and to indicate you were absolutely correct.
Okay. And you were not belaboring the point, Senator Hansen. It's important that we all understand what we're talking about and that we're all on the same page. And with that, we will continue with testimony in support of AB 217 in person here in Carson City.
Hello, my name is Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS. I'm here on behalf of SEIU. I can't answer any questions, but I can definitely give a statement. SEIU strongly supports this bill. Our students and their families should be protected from unwarranted immigration enforcement on school grounds. Nevada schools should remain safe learning environments where all students can focus on their education without fear of immigration enforcement disrupting their educational journey. We should require warrants for all enforcement officials to access school facilities or students' information. This idea upholds the fundamental principles that education is a right for all children, regardless of immigration status. This bill provides critical protections that will help ensure every child can learn without living in constant fear, while giving our educational professionals clear policy guidelines on how to respond to immigration enforcement requests. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Hansen, for your questions.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mary Przinski, here representing the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and we are in support of the bill as amended. Initially, when this bill came out, we had a lot of concerns about it, but we worked with the sponsor. She's worked with, especially with NASB on the bill, and we can support it at this point, so thank you.
I'll give you an opportunity. Were there any questions Senator Hansen asked that you would like to answer?
No, I'm just fine. Mary Przinski, I'm just fine. I do want to clarify that some of the districts do have policies. When I am surveying the superintendents to see what they think about a certain bill that's out, I send it to a little group of 3. You know, it varies which group the people are in, but in the 3 superintendents that I surveyed for this, Churchill, Elko, and Nye told me that they had policies in place. So I'm happy to go ahead and survey the rest of the superintendents if that would make the committee feel more confident about it. I can do that and have that information for you in just a few days if you'd like that.
Go ahead, Senator Hansen.
For having her answer that. Yeah, that was you've been involved with the rural school districts for a long time, Douglas County in particular, and so yeah, I would like to find out, because we know they have policies already in the 2 biggest ones. You just mentioned Elko, Churchill, and what was the third?
Nye. They were some that responded
another
to
big
me.
one. So my gut tells me most of them do. Maybe really, really tiny ones, Esmeralda, Eureka, or something may not, but I would bet that they already have policies like this in place. So all children, irrespective of what their parents' immigration status might be, should feel 100% safe in every public school, in all schools for that matter, in the state of Nevada. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Yeah, and thank you, Senator Mary Przenski, for the record. I totally agree, and I will check on policies regarding warrants, people coming into the schools. Of course, FERPA, everybody knows about that, but we'll get for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Willett. That's Willett, and I'm the Senior Campaign Manager at All Voting is Local Action, an organization that advocates for policies and legislative priorities that expand voter access. We support AB 217. We echo previous comments that schools should be safe and welcoming environments for students to focus only on learning. And I can add personally that my mother is a public school teacher and she talks about her worries over this nearly daily. Beyond the impact on students, this issue could have implications for voting access. We believe that a significant law enforcement presence or an increased presence can intimidate voters. Since many schools function as polling places, maintaining a welcoming and intimidation-free environment is critical to ensuring that all eligible voters can participate without fear. For these reasons, and to protect our children and Nevada's voters, we urge you to support AB 217. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, Nathaniel Wall, Clark County School District, I just want to answer Senator Hansen's question. So with the way that our policy is currently written, in Clark County, the only interaction that should be taking place with law enforcement is our police department. So if an employee outside of that is involved in an interaction, then it would be treated as a policy violation, counseling from supervisor, progressive discipline, things like that. So the first penalty that exists in this bill aligns with how we would treat that at the school level currently in Clark County.
Good afternoon, Chair, Shebo, and members of the committee. My name is Nathan Carrillo, currently a social work student at UNR and a member of Safe Schools for All 217. Firstly, I want to thank Assembly Member Cecilia Gonzalez for sponsoring this bill and caring for the future leaders of Nevada. I proudly support AB 217, and so do students at UNR. Myself, alongside a number of social work students, had tabled in support for AB 217 at UNR. We raised awareness of the bill and gathered data about students' opinions of schools being safe zones. From our data, we discovered that 93% out of our 107 responses believe that schools should be safe zones from immigration enforcement. We also gathered personal comments. One comment read, "I'm a child of undocumented parents, and even though I was born in the United States and I am a citizen, I still had fear instilled in me. I fear that my parents will be taken away from me." Unfortunately, this is common for individuals of mixed status families. For example, my mother too was scared of losing her mother due to deportation as a child immigrant. She expressed to me about the countless nights of her waiting for her mother to come back from her late-night job, terrified that she may never arrive. The fear and anxiety was constant. This bill works to prevent children from being scared to lose their loved ones due to immigration officials permitted to unlawfully disrupt immigrant families' lives in schools. Children are innocently navigating their way through the world with the help of families that can be wrongfully separated by immigration officials that are following unlawful orders by the Trump administration without due process. In Nevada, we can set the example to the rest of the United States, showing our effort to save the children, as the great Marvin Gaye once said. We must save the children from the psychological harm that comes with the presence of immigration officials on school grounds. This can be your expression of care for the students of Nevada, as Mr. Rogers would call it. I urge you to support AB 217 to continue nourishing a safe and secure environment for students' academic success. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Chair Scheibel, Isaac Tenorio. Today, in my personal capacity and not representing any clients, today actually as a proud Make the Road member, I'm here urging you to support this bill. Today I want to really humanize really this moment in this bill. So I, for most of my life, grew up with undocumented parents. So I am the perfect example of the trauma that exists in this perfect example. So since I was 8 years old, I was always told of a contingency plan of what would happen if my parents were to be picked up by ICE? What would happen if they were picked up at the grocery store, at their workplace? So from 8 years old, I was always told what would happen if they were picked up, who I would have to call, how I would have to take care of my sister, how I would have to take care of my cousins. And to this day, in my early 30s, I still live with that trauma. And my parents, my dad just recently has a legal permit. For 25 years, he paid taxes. He did everything right. I have 4 college degrees. I work for an amazing company. But unfortunately, we live in a country where there's a broken immigration system. And I don't think it's fair for these kids to live with this trauma, to go to school. And I think the one place that I always found happiness, that I always felt safe, was school. And I think we have an opportunity to do something well, to do something right here for our students here in Nevada, and it's this bill. That's the one place where they should feel safe. So I really urge you to support this bill, because that's the one place where the students should feel safe. Thank you.
Reverend Paul Larson, Lutheran Engagement and Advocacy here in Nevada. On behalf of Lutherans across Nevada, we support AB 217. And to echo just that trauma, this is a bill that we can solve generational trauma, and as a pastor, I see it. So please consider supporting this.
Hello, Chair, members of the committee. Tony Ramirez. I'm the Government Affairs Director with Make the Road Nevada. That's TonyRamirez. And just want to thank the bill sponsor for all of her work on this. It's been a joy to support her on this piece of legislation. And I just want to ditto all the comments that or all the testimonies you're going to hear from the folks I represent in Las Vegas. Thank you.
Chair Scheibel and members of the committee, Esmeralda Vasquez, ESMERALDA VAZQUEZ, here on my personal capacity, and just wanted to ditto all the comments made, and also just urge you to support this really, really important bill. Children don't know if they're undocumented or not. They don't know if their friends are. They just know that they're their friends. So I don't really think that it's that hard to understand that. So I hope that you find it within yourself to support this bill. Thank you.
All right, it looks like that concludes testimony in support here in Carson City. So we will go down to Las Vegas for testimony in support of AB 217. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, chair members of the committee. My name is Angel Meneses. I am a proud member of the Youth Project with Make the Road Nevada. I am here today in support of Bill AB 217. The Student Safety Act has a student. I believe schools should be places of learning, not fear. But when ICE is allowed near school, it creates anxiety, lowers attendance, and makes students feel unsafe. That fear just affects undocumented students, affects all of us. Bill AB 217 would help rebuild trust in our schools. It tells students that their safety matters more than politics. I ask you to pass Bill AB 217 and show that Nevada stands with youth and with education. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Yvonne Meneses, and I'm a proud member of Make the Road, Nevada, and a parent of a student in the Clark County School District. I'm here today and speak in strong support of AB 217, the Student Safety Act. As a parent, nothing matters more than my child's safety. When I send my child to school, I want to believe they are walking into a place of learning, growth, and opportunity. But immigrant families like mine, a school can be feels like a risk instead of a place we live with fear. The decision to take away protections from school as sensitive location did more than just change policy. It created chaos. It made parents question whether the school doors will open for education or for immigration rates. No child should have to sit at the desk and wonder if they will come home the same family. No parent have to choose between sending their child to school or keeping them safe from being separated. Our schools are more than classrooms. They are centers of community places where families attend events, access help, and feel connected. But when immigration enforcement is allowed near these spaces, it does not just hurt undocumented families, it hurts every child. Fear poisons that learning environment. When parents are afraid to show up, students lost support. They need to thrive. I urge you to pass AB 217. Show us that Nevada, we value our children's safety more than we fear political backlash. Show us that schools are not places where ICE has power over a child's future. Thank you for your time and for standing on the right side of history. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Erika Castro, ERIKACASTRO, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Immigrant Coalition in full support of AB 217. We first want to thank Assembly Member Gonzalez for bringing this bill forward at such a critical time. As stated, the current administration rescinded the Department of Homeland Security policy memo that protected certain areas such as churches, schools, and hospitals on January 21st. And replacing it with an unreleased directive that gives ICE agents uncontrolled power to take enforcement actions in any of these spaces using so-called common sense. But anti-immigrant policies create unsafe communities for all and erode trust in public institutions. In Nevada, according to the Migration Policy Institute, immigrants comprise 30% of all parents of children ages 0 to 4 and 34% of all parents of children ages 5 to 10 years old. According to the American Immigration Council, 19.2% of our state's residents are foreign-born and 12.4% of US-born residents live with at least one immigrant parent. This means that our communities are hyper-aware about what is happening at the federal level, and they are very concerned about how they are being directly impacted by these policy changes, which is why we have to be proactive at a local level. And the reality is that immigrants are an integral part of our communities across the state of Nevada, and children in our schools are scared of the threats of having ICE enforcement at their schools. It is our responsibilities as Nevadans to protect all kids in our state, regardless of their immigration status, so we can have a successful and thriving students. AB 217 will ensure that schools across our state remain safe learning environments for all. It does not interfere with federal law, and it simply upholds the values that schools are for learning, not deportations. As our state thrives with the labor, economic input, and cultural diversity of our immigrant communities, we urge you to support AB 217 to allow all students, regardless of their parents or their immigration status, to continue to learn and grow in their schools without the fear of family separation. Please preserve Nevada schools a safe space for all communities. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alma Perez, and I'm a member with Make the Road Nevada. Schools are one of the only places where many children feel truly safe, and it should stay that way. Teachers are there to protect and support students, not to stand by while fear and trauma are brought into the classroom. The presence of ICE near or inside schools take away that sense of safety and replaces it with anxiety and harm. No student should have to sit through math class wondering if their family will be there when they get home. I strongly support AB 217 because it protects the right of every student to learn in peace without fear. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Arlie Carrillo. That's ARLYCORRIL for the record. I am a current UNLV student. To start off, we are all immigrants in this nation. If we all just sat down and recognized who are really US citizens, we would all acknowledge that we're not ambassadors. I am proud to say that I come from an immigrant family whose family had to leave everything behind to provide a better education for their families. So why do I believe this bill is important? This can lead to parents pulling their children's at a school, avoiding school events, or disengaging from their child's education entirely out of fear. Kids may struggle to concentrate in class, knowing that someone they love could be taken away. No children should have to learn in fear. Passing this bill ensures that education stays separate from immigration enforcement. It helps build trust between schools and families, encourages students' attendance, and creates an environment where every child, regardless of immigration status, should feel safe, valued, and protected. It is not only affecting immigrants, but it's also affecting us as US citizens because we all have family members, friends being affected by all this. Passing this bill would help bring safety and peace of mind to so many families in my community right now. There is a real fear that ICE could show up or get information from schools, and that fear keeps parents and children from fully engaging in their children's education. Some avoid schools events, don't even speak about or concerns or even think twice before dropping their kids off. As ICE is invading their education, invading their dreams, invading their right to think and be like a kid. This bill would help remove that fear. It would let families know that school is a safe space, not a trap. Kids should never have to sit in a classroom wondering if their parents will be gone when they get home. This bill would help keep families together and remind us that education should be about learning, not fear. Remembering that these children are the future to our country. A kid should never be put in a state of mind. Let a kid be a kid. This bill, B 217, would be a great step for humanity and powerful act of empathy towards children and young people who are affected. Education is a fundamental right, and we must not put at risk the opportunity for our children to receive a fair and dignified education. A strong future begins with the mental well-being, and trauma can deeply affect young minds. Education should be seen as a necessity, not a privilege, reserved for only certain countries or groups. Here in the United States, we're all supposed to be equal. That's what the 14th Amendment stands for. We must hold on to the truth for our future, for the future of our every children. We can't let insecurity, injustice, or fear take that away. Something so essential to our well-being and growth. Thank you, committee members, for hearing this speech.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Selina Ventura, Selina Ventura, Ventura for the record. I was born in Hidalgo, Mexico, and raised in Las Vegas since I was 3 months old. I have lived here for 26 years. I am part of a mixed status family, and I have felt what it means to grow up undocumented in a country I call home. Even with the challenges, I have built a life. I am a DACA recipient, a first-generation Latina college student, a homeowner, and a community advocate. But behind every one of those accomplishments is a fear that it could all be taken away. My family still worries about being separated, and now even in school campuses feel uncertain. I support AB 217 because it would finally give families like mine the peace of knowing that schools are truly safe. Parents will no longer have to second guess whether it is safe to drop off their child. Students will be able to focus on their education without wondering if they will get a call from a parent in detention. Students will no longer have to carry the burden of calming students who are scared by immigration rumors. This bill means children will show up to school ready to learn, not holding fear in their hearts. It means higher attendance, less anxiety, and a stronger connection between families and their schools. It means dignity for students who have already lived with so much uncertainty. And just like children, I am also afraid of ICE coming into my school. I am a junior at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Please support AB 217. This is not just about policy. This is about protecting the right of every child to feel safe at school and every family to feel peace when they let go of their child's hand in the morning. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Robert Chandro. That's RobertChandro, and I'm a student here at Clark High School in Nevada. I'm also with One API in Nevada, a grassroots organization dedicated to organizing Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders in Nevada to increase civic participation and advocate for issues that impact our communities.
I'm here today to speak in strong support of AB 217 because this bill directly affects students just like me, especially my classmates who are part of immigrant families. Every day, I go to school expecting to focus on learning, seeing my friends, and planning for the future. I shouldn't be seeing my peers live with the constant fear that something could happen to them or their families because of their immigration status that they often can't control. I've heard my peers reach out for support because they're scared their parents might not be home when they get back, and that kind of fear doesn't belong in a school environment. AB 217 matters because it helps schools stay what they're supposed to be, safe spaces. This bill protects our information in our classrooms from being targeted by immigration enforcement when it's not warranted. This bill is about maintaining trust in our legal system and law enforcement, and we just need to know that our schools will stand up for us, not quietly cooperate with efforts that could tear families apart and disrupt an otherwise what would be safe learning environment. Passing this bill shows hundreds of thousands of Nevada students, whether they were born here or immigrated here, that they matter and that their school will protect their right to learn without fear. So I hope you'll support AB 217 and help keep Nevada schools safe for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Carolina Rueda.
Good afternoon. My name is Carolina Herrera.
Soy madre de dos hijos y miembro de Make the Road, Nevada.
I'm a mother of 2 children and a member of Make a Road in Nevada.
Estoy aquí para apoyar la propuesta de ley AB 217.
I'm here to support the bill AB 217.
Es una ley muy importante
It's a very important law,
y espero que sea aprobada.
and I expect it to be approved.
No quiero un futuro en el que mis hijos estén en riesgo
I don't want a future where my children are going to be in risk
o en situaciones estresantes solo por ir a la escuela.
or in stressful situation just because they're going to school.
La escuela debe ser un lugar de aprendizaje y crecimiento,
The school should be a place of learning and growth,
no un espacio donde tengan que preocuparse por influencias externas
and not a place where you've got to worry about external influences
que los afecten emocional y mentalmente.
that would affect them emotionally and mentally.
Debemos trabajar juntos
We should work together
para crear un ambiente que eleve a nuestros estudiantes y a nuestros hijos
to create an environment that will give us and our children
a seguir creciendo como personas fuertes,
to keep growing as strong people
con valores,
with values
con buenos principios,
and very good principles.
y que el estrés
And that stress
que les pueda generar
that
la
can,
no aprobación de esta ley
that can create with the non-approval of this legislation
los detenga para ser personas grandes.
will be a roadblock for them to be greater people.
Por favor, les pido que apoyen la propuesta AB 217. Gracias.
I please request that you support the legislation AB 217.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Flor Diaz, Flordiaz. I have a lot to say, but I'll just leave it at a ditto to what everyone behind me said. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Velázquez.
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Velasquez.
Soy miembro de Make a Road y estoy aquí para apoyar AB 217.
I'm here as a member of Make the Road, and I'm here to support the AB 217.
Y espero que ustedes también apoyen a AB 297.
And I expect you also to approve AB 297.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rihanna Meadows, Meadows, pronouns she, her, and I'm here to urge and support of Bill AB 217. And I did what everyone else has said. Thank you.
My name is Dennis Acosta, DENNISACOST. I am a constituent in District 1. I am here to testify in support of AB 217. Thank you so much.
My name is Peyton Leonardo, Peyton Lonardo. I'm a constituent of District 17, and I am asking the Assembly to vote in favor and support AB 217. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Schreibel and members of the committee. My name is Priscilla Venzor, that's Priscilla Venzor, and I'm an attorney with the UNLV Immigration Clinic, where I primarily work with unaccompanied migrant children. I do not speak on behalf of UNLV or NG. My colleagues have discussed the issues with increased stress, increased truancy rates, and I would like to emphasize 2 important points. First and foremost, this bill does not conflict with federal law. What it does is that it reaffirms if the Fourth Amendment's requirements that immigration enforcement officials must have a judicial warrant to enter a private area of a school or obtain confidential records. And it empowers the school officials to decline searches by ICE or other federal agents, knowing that Nevada law is on their student side. My second point that I think is important to bring to the committee's attention is that our office, which works primarily with unaccompanied migrant children, has had many firsthand accounts of immigration authorities interacting with or seeking out children that are clients of our clinic. There's a public memo between Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. And this memo essentially outlines increased enforcement activities against these children. This includes separating children from their caregivers and can even include deporting the children themselves. So the risks that Nevadan children and their families do face are very real. Without this policy, any interaction that school officials have with ICE agents risks the safety of Nevadan families, and schools cannot be deputized to act as federal immigration agents, and so they should not feel pressured to assist with the enforcement of immigration policies that will directly impact the safety and well-being of their own students and families. So for those reasons, I am testifying in support of this bill, and I thank you for your time.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz Salgado
Good afternoon. My name is Luz Salgado.
y apoyo la ley 217.
I support legislation 217.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daisy Sanchez, D-A-I-S-I-S-A-N-C-H-E-C. I am constituent in District 4, and I am here to testify in support of AB 217. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Donisha Latchison. I am a Latchison, L-A-T-C-H-I-N-S-O-N. I am a resident of District 10, and I support this bill as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erica Marquez, E-R-I-K-A-M-A-R-Q-U-E-Z. I am in District 14, and I approve Bill AB 214. I hope you guys also approve of this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marsha Pitts, M-A-R-S-H-A-P-I-T-T-S, and I'm a constituent of District 4, and I'm here to testify in support of AB 2117.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Ortiz. Soy miembro y líder de Make the Road Nevada.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth Ortiz. I'm a member and leader of Make a Road Nevada.
Estoy aquí para apoyar la AB
I'm here to support AB
217.
217.
Estoy completamente desacuerdo con que las escuelas colaboren con ICE.
I am in total disagreement that schools collaborate with ICE
O permitan detenciones dentro de los planteles escolares.
or allow detentions inside the schools.
La sola idea de que un niño pueda ser separado de su familia en el lugar donde debería sentirse más seguro
the idea of thinking about a child be separated from their family in a place where they should feel safe
Me parte el corazón.
breaks my heart.
Como madre, no puedo imaginar el miedo que siente un niño al pensar que por ir a la escuela podría no volver a ver a su familia.
As a mother, the fear that I feel that a child will go through when they are going to separate him from the family when he just wanted to go to school.
Ese miedo no debería existir en las escuelas.
This fear should not exist in schools.
Los pensamientos de un niño deben estar en aprender,
The thoughts of a child should be learning,
en hacer amigos,
make friends,
en soñar con un futuro,
dream with future,
no en preocuparse por un estatus migratorio.
and not concerned about immigration status.
Conozco familias que han dejado de participar en eventos escolares o incluso
I know families who have stopped participating in school events, and as a matter of fact,
han retirado a sus hijos por miedo
they have withdrawn their children just because of fear
a que ICE esté cerca.
that ICE will be nearby.
Esto no solo afecta a un estudiante,
This not only affects a student,
afecta a toda la comunidad escolar.
it affects all the schooling community.
Nadie puede aprender con miedo.
Nobody can learn with fear.
Por eso estoy aquí,
That's why I'm here,
para pedirles que apoyen
to request that you support
AB 217,
AB 217,
este proyecto de ley
this bill
es para el bienestar y el aprendizaje de nuestros hijos.
is for the welfare and the learning of our children.
Les pido de corazón que protejan a los estudiantes
From the bottom of my heart, I request that you support our students,
más vulnerables
more vulnerable,
y les den la oportunidad
and give them the opportunity
de crecer sin miedo.
to grow up without fear.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mary Wolfram, Wolfrom, and I live in District 1 here in Las Vegas, and I support Bill 217. Please vote yes. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Alejandro Ramos y soy miembro de Nevada. Estoy aquí para apoyar.
Good afternoon. I'm Alejandro Ramos, and I'm a member of Maker Road, Nevada. I'm here to support
AB 217.
AB
Muchas gracias.
217. Thank you very much.
And I'm going to interrupt real quickly. We have to take a brief pause to take care of some technical issues. So the committee will be in recess just for a brief moment. Thank you. All right, I will call the committee back into order, and we are in support testimony in person in Las Vegas. If there's anybody else who still wishes to testify in support in person in Las Vegas, please come on forward. I don't see anybody coming forward in Las Vegas. But I'm going to pass it over to Vice Chair Flores for just a minute.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to acknowledge Mr. Richard Evans. It is great to see you, sir. Thank you for volunteering your time. I have the honor of working alongside of you in court, and it's great to see you come to my world. So thank you, sir. Saludos.
Thank you, Senator Flores, and I can see you got that you're right, Mr. James Orenthal, whom I met at the PD's office, and Senator Wynn, who I worked with her many times ago. It's great to see all of you doing such important work.
And we certainly appreciate having you here. Thank you so much for assisting us this afternoon with our testimony.
Love it.
Good. And with that, we will move to the phones for testimony in support of AB 217. I'd like to remind callers that while you are absolutely welcome to utilize a full 2 minutes to give your remarks, you're also welcome to say ditto or I agree. We will not think any less of you. And if you want to submit additional comments in writing, we do review all of those. So with that, let's go to the phones for testimony in support of AB 217.
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of AB 217, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon. My name is Paula Luna. That's Paula-Luna, and I'm the Deputy Director of Battle-Born Progress. I'm calling in support of AB 217. Our students shouldn't have to worry about being confronted by ICE officials while at school. These fears are very real, especially because so many of our children live in mixed status families. They shouldn't have to worry about putting themselves, their friends, or their families in dangers of deportation while they try to get their education. While we urge this committee to support AB 217 and thank Assemblymember Gonzalez for protecting our children from immigration enforcement overreach. Thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Denise Bolaños Heredia, Bolanos Heredia, and I'm the Associate Director of Return Strong Nevada, and we strongly support AB 217. While our work has focused on the rights of incarcerated people in Nevada, we recognize that ICE detention is another arm of the carceral system, causing deep and lasting harm in our communities. Allowing ICE to access student information without a signed warrant is just another way that immigrant families are targeted, this time through their children. It turns schools from places of learning into sites of surveillance. Children of immigrants already live with a daily fear that they may come home to an empty house. They shouldn't also fear that what happens at school could put their families at risk. If you're not a part of these communities, it may be hard to grasp that fear, but that is your privilege, not our exaggeration. For many, this fear is real and constant and daily. AB 217 helps ensure schools remain safe spaces for children to learn and grow, not places where immigration enforcement casts a shadow. These protections should never have been needed, but given where we are as a country, we thank Assemblymember Gonzalez for standing with the most vulnerable members of our communities, our children. Please support AB 217. Thank you.
Richmond Warnicki with SEIU for the record. Strongly urge the support of AB 217. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. My name is Jamelle Nance, that is Jamellellenance, and I represent the Children's Advocacy Alliance as our Early Childhood Policy Director. CAA is a nonpartisan, independent voice for Nevada's children with a mission to ensure every child in Nevada thrives. Today, I'm speaking in support of AB 217 and would like to echo the sentiments of the bill's sponsor and presenter. I want to also highlight the critical need for psychological safety in our schools to ensure a conducive learning environment free from fear and anxiety. This fear directly impacts students' mental health and, as you heard, school attendance. We know that chronic absenteeism continues to be an issue in the state, and according to our Annie Casey Foundation 2024 Kids Count data book, over 40% of Nevada students miss more than 10% of the academic year. This is more than 47,000 kids. Students cannot learn if they are not in school. If immigration authorities are allowed to enter schools, these numbers will only rise as fear keeps more students at home. So today, again, I'd just like to urge your support. I would like to thank the bill sponsor for bringing this bill forward, and hopefully, we will be able to support AB 217, and we'd like to thank you for your time and hearing our testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Rosalina Trinidad, spelled Rosalina Trinidad. I'm a daughter of Filipino immigrants and a high school educator in Nevada for 5 years. I do not speak on behalf of my place of employment, but as my place as an educator. Education is not just a profession, it is my calling. But before learning can happen, schools must be safe spaces where students feel secure, supported, and protected. And over the past several months, I've witnessed an increased anxiety and fear in the classroom, fueled by news reports and policy changes that threaten the safety of immigrant students and their families. Students should never feel that they could be persecuted, profiled, or abducted on school campuses. Schools must remain for learning, not for surveillance, criminalization, or immigration enforcement. If AB 217 is not passed, we risk sending a chilling message that schools are no longer safe havens for children, but spaces where education and criminalization coexist. This is not what we as educators or as a community should accept as a standard in our state. AB 217 would prevent federal immigration agents from accessing school campuses or receiving student information without due process. Importantly, allowing ICE such access would violate the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, a federal law that protects the confidentiality of student educational records, including citizenship status. Schools have a legal and ethical responsibility to uphold this law and protect every student's right to learn in peace. Rather than fanning terror, this bill would ease fears instilled across this country. I urge you to support AB 217 to safeguard our campuses, protect our students, and uphold their legal rights and human dignity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Miller. That's Mathilda, Government Relations Director of Native Voters Alliance Nevada. We're in strong support of Assembly Bill 217. To put it plainly, children should feel safe at school. That should never be up for debate. No matter what your political beliefs are, your values, or the letter after your name, we should all agree on one thing: that no child should fear walking through their school doors. This bill is simple: keep schools what they're meant to be, places of learning, not places of fear. It ensures that children are not used as pawns in the system that forget what they are just that they're children. We urge your support. Thank you.
There are no more callers wishing to speak in support at this time.
All right, then we will move to testimony in opposition to AB 217. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition in person is invited to the front here in Carson City and down south in Las Vegas. We will start with testimony here in Carson City. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Scheibel and committee. My name is Joshua Skaggs, and I'm the Legislative Affairs Director for the Nevada Republican Party, here today in opposition to AB 217. On Friday, we testified against a similar bill, AJR 9, which is a partisan political statement not based on any legitimate fear of law enforcement. We opposed it because the first resolving clause urges the federal government to not enforce federal law, which is inappropriate. It is also unnecessary, as the legislation requested in the resolution has already been introduced by congressional Democrats. AB 217, however, is a greater danger to our school employees, as it would actually place in Nevada law a prohibition against allowing federal officials to enter school grounds or to share any information about a pupil or a pupil's household with federal agents engaged in investigation or enforcement of immigration laws. Anyone who violates AB 217 would be charged with a misdemeanor for the second or subsequent violation. The issue here is that complying with AB 217 as amended could place an individual in violation of 18 U.S. Code Section 1512, which provides for fines and up to 20 years of imprisonment for obstructing an official proceeding, and depending on the circumstances, could also place them in violation of 8 U.S. Code Section 1324, which provides for fines and imprisonment for anyone who, quote, knowing or in reckless disregard of the fact that an alien has come to, entered, or remains in the United States in violation of law and conceals, harbors, or shields from detection, or attempts to conceal, harbor, or shield from detection such alien in any place, including any building or any means of transportation, end quote. AB 217 does state that individuals may cooperate if there is a lawful order or a warrant issued by a court, so at best, the bill may just be a partisan political propaganda similar to AJR 9, but at worst, it could place school employees in an untenable situation where they have to choose between violating state laws or federal laws. We oppose this bill in either case. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Senators. My name is James Gansinger, James Gansinger. I'm a Douglas County Republican and here representing the Nevada Republican Party in opposition to Assembly Bill 217. This Assembly Bill has basically two parts. One relates to access to school property. The second relates to information with respect to pupils. The second part of this act is limited to pupils. The first part of this act is not. We've heard a lot of testimony from students or from representatives concerned about the rights of students. The second part bars the dissemination of information to ICE with respect to students. That is absolutely unnecessary because the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, the federal legislation, already prohibits the dissemination by schools of information that relates to students. So there's already federal legislation that makes it illegal for schools to provide the very information that you say should be protected here. So to that extent, the second portion of 217 is totally unnecessary. With respect to the first portion, access, that is not limited to students. As Senator Hansen has already demonstrated, there has not been a single incident of ICE coming onto any school property to apprehend or to arrest or to take into custody any students. This section of the bill prohibits employees from allowing ICE anywhere on school property. That conflicts with current federal law, which permits ICE or other law enforcement onto non-public areas of schools. So ICE representatives cannot go into non-public areas of school property already. To the extent that this law would make it a violation for teachers or faculty or administrators to permit ICE onto non-public areas, that directly conflicts with federal law and would be a violation of the Supremacy Clause, making that portion of the legislation unconstitutional. I think it's a morally irreprehensible to put the administrators and faculty and staff of our school systems in a situation where they're damned if they do, they're damned if they don't. where under this legislation, they're required to violate federal law. So they either violate federal law or they violate state law. If they allow ICE onto the property, let's say not to do anything with respect to students, but with respect to someone who they believe to be an undocumented person who's violated crimes and is detainable and deportable, it would be a crime for the administrator to permit ICE to come on to the campus and perform their duty. That would be a violation of the federal law. On the other hand, if they do if they do refuse permission to come on the property, then they find themselves in violation of state law. So you're in a situation where if they permit the access, they violate state law. If they prohibit the access, they violate federal law. This is bad legislation and should not be passed. Thank you very much.
I don't see anybody else coming forward in either location to give opposition testimony. Before we go to the phones, though, I want to go to Mr. Scully, our committee counsel, to help us clarify if this bill were to pass, would there be a conflict between the federal law and the state law?
Thank you, Chair. This bill, as written, I don't believe would make any change to how federal law and state law interact.
And can I ask more specifically, this bill provides a provision that does require school districts and schools to still comply with a federal warrant or a subpoena or another court order, and that would be sufficient to meet the needs for federal compliance with any law that requires government agencies to cooperate with the federal government. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is our reading. So the 10th Amendment and Supreme Court case law already state that Congress and federal law cannot require local authorities to enforce a federal regulatory scheme, and there's no federal law requiring them to do the job of ICE, of which I'm aware. So this would be different from aiding someone in fleeing from ICE.
Thank you. And if I could just then clarify one more thing, because we heard in the initial presentation, during our questions and answers, we kind of heard that most, if not all, counties in Nevada already have policies that mirror this this proposed language for the Nevada revised statutes. In opposition, we just heard testimony that would suggest that adopting this language would be a violation of the Constitution, which I think means that if the opposition is correct, we currently have multiple school districts in violation of the U.S. Constitution, and I just want to make sure that we're not condoning that kind of behavior. So could you just clarify, if this bill were to pass, whether there would be any kind of constitutional violations?
I do not believe that there would be, Chair.
Thank you. All right. I think we still have to go to the phones now for opposition testimony. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition, please, broadcast, do we have anybody wishing to testify in opposition on the phone?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to AB 217, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kimberly Fergus, F-E-R-G-U-S. This is mind-boggling. However, I strongly oppose AB 217 because this bill is not about protecting students. It's a political dig at the current administration. There's no record of ICE storming Nevada schools. Why pass a law that criminalizes educators for helping law enforcement? This bill punishes teachers and staff law-abiding citizens for following their conscience and cooperating with authorities. Meanwhile, it protects individuals who actively breaking immigration law. You're sending the wrong message to our children. That laws don't matter, and those upholding them will be punished. As lawmakers, your responsibility is to stand on the side of public safety and the rule of law, not create sanctuary loopholes in our schools. This bill totally tips the scales of justice in the wrong direction. And I really urge you to vote no on AB 217. And the last thing that I do want to say, because I've been watching this, you know, I need to pick my jaw up off the floor on how many of these kids, you're promoting kids to testify on this, and they have no business doing that. I'm just vote no, please. Thank you. Have a good day.
Cyrus, Hojjaty. I hope you guys can hear me. We believe that ICE coming into these kinds of places is harsh, and it's certainly not the style that it should be done. However, we share many of the concerns as given by Senator Hansen. And first of all, thank you guys so much for having this meeting. Good afternoon. However, there has to be a penalty for not following federal law. We're very concerned that nowadays elected officials care more about the well-being of non-citizens over American citizens, not to mention the well-funded NGOs that surround them. The fact is that we believe that there's a possibility that this may shield people who are awaiting deportation orders and have to be removed out of the country. Not to mention, we don't hear by the people who support this bill on, okay, you don't like this plan, but what is the consequence for not following federal law? Should we fine and audit employers? Should we tax remittances? Why hasn't a similar bill being brought in a legislative session 5 to 15 years ago? I mean, keep in mind, President Obama still holds the record of deporting the most amount of people than any other president in American history. Think about it. And when it comes to unauthorized immigration, let's not forget about the impacts that it has in our public schools. Perhaps the high student-teacher ratios, the extra resources and time needed on English language services, the overall performance. So even if this policy were to take effect, what about all the benefits that may come as a result of this? And this will also discourage future unlawful immigration. So other than that, we'd like to thank you for bringing this bill forward. Hope you guys are having a good day. And please vote no on this bill. Great pleasure. Yield.
Hi, this is Katrina Ivanov, IVANO Frank. I am extremely disappointed with the premise of this bill because this bill is going to teach our kids not to follow law enforcement. And this is how the most police shooting happens, when adults don't follow the instructions of the law enforcement person and try to tell them how to do their job, not just to tell them, to fight them on it, actually. So I'm very disappointed that once again, our legislature is not thinking of Nevada residents, the taxpaying law-abiding citizens. I feel like I sound like a broken record, but the sad part is if you do not give me, if you pass law that protects Nevadans, I would not have to say this on almost every law I'm testifying. It is really sad that you tell the children we should not follow the law enforcement. We're going to make a law to oppose the law enforcement, the people that are getting paid to protect us. And then our taxpayer money are paying them to protect us, But then again, you want to spend more taxpayer money to stop them from protecting us. Just here in Nevada, because we don't matter. And on top of that, when you do something that doesn't coincide with the federal law, you're putting us in a position as a state to lose federal funding. And at the same breath, you want more taxes from Nevada? How about try to keep the federal funding and don't charge us more taxes instead of passing laws that guarantee to lose the federal funding? Thank you and have a lovely day. I really hope you vote no on this bill. Please vote no.
There are no further callers to provide opposition testimony at this time.
All right, then we will go to neutral testimony. Anybody wishing to testify in neutral in person is invited up to the front to do so. Here in Carson City and in Las Vegas, we will start in Carson City with neutral testimony on AB 217. Please go ahead in Carson City whenever you're ready. There is a button on the table. It kind of looks like a sticker that you have to press in order to turn your microphone on.
Thank you, committee, for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Cynthia Perrine, Cynthia Perrine. I merely wish to present to the committee what might be useful information in providing some balance as to the impressions on ICE law enforcement in recent days. California Attorney General Rob Bonta issued a public warning that bad actors and scammers were posing as ICE agents to instill fear in migrant communities. The problem in California had become so pervasive as to cause the AG to raise public awareness as to ICE impersonators. North Dakota, South Carolina, Florida, North Carolina have also experienced scammers committing crimes posing as ICE agents. Now, these incidences may not have been fully reported in the media, and this lack of reporting may contribute to undermining public confidence in ICE. I just want to present that merely as information for the committee to consider, and to consider who is the real enemy here, and it may not be ICE agents. I would also like to bring out that Rochelle Murillo, who is the Director of Intervention for Washoe County Schools, on KUNR on February 28, 2025, stated that there is no official data linking absenteeism in Washoe County to ICE-related concerns. So just useful information for the committee to consider, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And an excellent example of neutral testimony provides us with information. And I will now go to the phones for any additional neutral testimony on AB 217.
Thank you, Chair. The public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, then that brings us to the conclusion of testimony. I understand our initial presenter had to go up to another committee to present another bill, so we don't have any closing remarks unless there are any from the committee, but I don't see any. And before I do, I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing on AB 217. The hearing being closed, we have one item of business left on our agenda today, which is public comment. Anybody wishing to give public comment is invited to do so in person in Carson City or Las Vegas. I don't see anybody coming forward to give public comment in person, so we'll go to the phones. Anybody on the phone lines to give public comment, please?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment today, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to oh, excuse me, one moment.
Yes, CYRUSHOJJATY. I wanted to make sure that just food for thought, in case if everybody forgot, a lot of unauthorized immigrants are visa overstays. So a lot of them have come to this process legally, but the process was so tough that they couldn't get legal permanent status. So we got to make sure that when we think about these people, they're not all of them just people who try to sneak in and get without proper papers, because I think there's been a lot of misconception and hence all the other impacts that they bring. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak on this issue.
There are no further callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
All right, then that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Thank you, everybody who stuck with us, the few and the formidable who stuck with us through this whole meeting. And we have another one tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, we are adjourned.